change in the fundraising sector has never been greater. But innovations in technology are evolving faster than our ability to understand them. Are these advances good or bad? Do they have unintended consequences? And what is the application to the global fundraising sector? That's what we're here to find out. Welcome to the Fundraising AI Podcast, your up-to-date resource for responsible AI for the global fundraising community, hosted by Nathan Chappell and Scott Rosenkrantz.
Everyone, welcome back to another episode of Fundraising AI Podcast, episode 57, I believe. I've never been good with counting these episodes, as you know, so in the late 50s, I'm certain of that. Today, I'm Scott Rosenkrantz. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Jean-Luc Mommaerts. I probably butchered that name, so I'm going to let him do an introduction of himself, but he and I have been talking for probably 7-8 months on and off now, and his background of his many degrees, his PhD in medical science and a master's in cognitive science and artificial intelligence, and built really incredible tool that I've been playing around with a lot, especially more recently, that I decided to dig in and talk about it with you, Jean-Luc. So I'd love to have you introduce yourself to the audience, and we'll just go on from there.
Okay, first, thanks for having me on your show. I'm delighted to be here. So my name, correctly pronounced, is Jean-Luc Mommaerts, but you can call me Jean-Luc, of course, if you like. It's a bit like Lucky Luke, so I feel like if you call me something like that. So as you said, I am a master in cognitive science and artificial intelligence. I earned that degree in last century, so in 1997. That's how long I am busy with artificial intelligence, actually. I was then mainly interested in artificial neural networks already then. So it was way before it became the hype. Back then it was the good old-fashioned AI go-fi, so very conceptual, very expert system-based. I worked in a company also, so I have 12 years of medical practice also. And then I also worked in 2 companies on AI stuff from then. So I have been following the AI, so I know the ups and downs and from all kinds, from all sides. So I can very well combine those things now. I have a good insight in not just in the AI of now, the big hype that it has gotten into with the LLMs, etc., but very much around that. So I can combine that, and I do combine several strains of that into Lisa. So the other side of my background is, as you mentioned, I am also a PhD in medical science, mainly the science of the mind, so where mind and body flow together. So I earned that degree in 2014. So it's always mind related, and I also bring those things very much together. So we have a lot to learn from AI in how we can comprehend the human mind better, and the other way around. So if you know how the human mind and the brain function, mainly neurocognitive science, which is what I'm very interested in, that has a lot to say also about how we can make the AI more performance and also more human-centered. Not only the human in the conceptual, ego-wise way, as our Western medicine mainly does, but also the human in a more holistic way. So I combine many things, and this combination, that's where Lisa has been born.
Yeah, I love that, because you've been in from when neural networks were just getting started, right? And that the thought was that, well, this is how the brain works. Let's try this model in, the quantitative state to see how it statistically with numbers and data. And obviously that picked up significantly and gotten us to the hype of where we are today with AI. But like you're saying, we can also learn from neural networks of how the mind works. And so it becomes this cyclical nature that we're teaching it to learn like us, but then we're also learning from it. How do we actually learn? Because there's theories, but it's not entirely known. And your focus on AI is not just artificial intelligence for the sake of artificial intelligence, which is what we find in a lot of places now. Like, it's very obviously a valuable tool and can do so many things, but you're really honing in on this field that you refer to as compassionate AI, right? So share with us, like, what got you to be more narrow focused in that specifically, and how you see that different than the rest of AI as it pertains to ChatGPT and all the other tools that are out and about these days?
Yeah, of course. Compassion has a long history. And so I've always also been interested in Eastern philosophy, where you have the bodhisattva of compassion. East, China, Japan, you have Guanyin, Kanzon in Japan and so on. So it's that kind of compassion, see? So it's not just a bit of friendliness, or certainly not the same as pity or empathy. It goes very deep and is very broad, this concept of compassion. And it has to do with the human being, but as a whole. And so in the Western, mainly also post-Freudian, when we are talking about the non-conscious now, way beyond Freud. It's since a half century, we have this science called neurocognitive science, which is the science of the brain, and where our thinking, our feeling, our being motivated actually comes from the working of the brain. So it is this bringing together that brings us very many insights, which to me is extremely interesting, that it coincides very much with this Eastern wisdom and also Western strands. But in the West, it's more on the sideline. In the East, that it has been for the last millennia, very much in the center. But there you see that it comes together in this concept of compassion. It's kind of like of what I try to do. You can see as a combination of the rationality of the West, the Western Enlightenment, so the beginning 18th century, 19th century, with all those great philosophers from the West, like Kant, Rousseau, and so on. That Western Enlightenment, and in the East, where they called enlightenment, it was this compassion inside more. So this big emptiness thing that is so difficult to grasp by Western people, but it's very much real. And now it all comes together. So what I try to do is to bring Western enlightenment and Eastern enlightenment together, not as two different parts of a whole, but really bringing them inside together. So trying to understand the human being as one entity, where these two kinds are two views upon that entity. Well, yeah, you got a lot of new insights from that are pretty new in the East and the West, and that's my main endeavor. Theoretically, to understand that, and also practically to bring as much as possible to the good of humankind. So, and then we have this AI stuff going on, which brings a lot of insights and also a lot of practical possibilities to go further on that road, which I see as very much necessary in this age to do. So for me, that's the future that we must go. Might be the only future we've got. Because if we combine the power of AI with something else than compassion, tend to be really, I'm not the only one in this domain, I tend to be really pessimistic.
Yeah, that ties to like an AI by itself is not innately good or bad, right? It's all based on the people who build it and what are their intentions. I think one of our last episodes we talked about, it's the current LLMs are built in a way to be right most of the time, but primarily keep you happy, right? And if they keep you happy by not being truthful, they might default to that, right? Because that's the motivation of the company, is to have engagement so that they can have a product with profit and so on. But you're coming in with obviously a different mentality, that it has to be built in with a compassionate component for the sake of humanity, right? Which is right in line with everything that we're talking about with Clancy. And you've materialized this into not just a philosophy, but a compassionate AI coach, right? Lisa. Let's talk about Lisa. Like, how did the idea for Lisa come about, and where have you been? What sets her apart? And then where have you been employing that and deploying that across different areas?
Yeah. So I started thinking about Lisa some 7 years ago. So my book is from 5 years ago, the book that I sent you several months ago. It's The Journey Towards Compassionate AI. It's a book of 5 years ago. There's a chapter about Lisa, so I anticipated. So my thinking was I will first describe it and then I will start making it. And I'm very happy now with the developments of the last few years that made it very much more feasible to actually develop this. So it goes very fast now. AI is going very fast. Through that, my ideas are also going very fast, and the development of Lisa is going much faster than I could have anticipated a few years ago. So I'm happy in that. The ideas of Lisa, so the philosophy, as I was talking about compassion, for instance, so the philosophy, I started with that some 30 years ago already. So that's already 3 decennia, I mean. Actually, it coincided with my studying AI, and I was very much inspired by a book already in 86, so that's almost 40 years ago, a book that's called Parallel Distributed Processing. It's by Rumelhart and McClelland. It was very much from then. It's actually still a very timely book, even now. It's really a very interesting book, very much ahead of its time. And it talks about the human mind, brain, can be composed of many patterns in many layers and things working parallel and distributed so throughout the brain. So it's really a good book about the brain. It's a good book about what that means for human thinking. And in the book already, it was anticipated that this would be a very good way to think about then starting to be nascent ideas about AI. So it was in 87 already that those ideas were studied. The next very good book is by Sejnowski, and he's still alive and very much kicking. He wrote a book even very recently about, well, he is actually a neurocognitive scientist, but now he's also very much interested in LLMs and so on, and he also sees the connection from that. So that book was the computational brain, which says what it says. It brings together the human brain and computational insights. And those books, so the one from 86 and 94, were to me very inspiring for Aurelius, for the broader philosophy, which is the Aurelius project. And then if you take Aurelius, L-I-S, as the 3 last characters, L-I-S, and you put assistant, A, L-I-S-A, come to Lisa. See? So it was in my mind Lisa as the tool to divulge the philosophy of Aurelius to as many people as possible. That's where also the name of the project comes from. And there you see why and what's the goal.
And we'll put all these links in the podcast. So it's Aurelius, A-U-R-E-L-I-S, which then assistant became the Lisa. And you designed this. I've been playing with it for a while, and again, thank you for sharing that with me, that you have it in a couple different applications where it's coach primarily, but then there is also, it can be used with children, with teens, like you have it segmented for these different. How do you see that different than ChatGPT? And obviously I know from working with it, but for the broader audience who might be, start to play around with Lisa, how would they treat it differently than by using ChatGPT voice mode?
Yeah. Well, technologically, you can see the LLM as the engine of Lisa. It's an important part. Without the engine, the car doesn't drive, of course, but it's only one part of the car. And then you have the steering wheel, which in Lisa is actually a very complex, multidimensional kind of dynamic steering wheel. So it's not just a wheel, it's really complex. And then in the car, it's actually a truck. And in the load of the truck, there is a lot of the mind of Lisa itself is the load in the truck. And it's really very, very much very complex also, very modular, very multi-layered. And there you see our mind also is of course very complex, modular, multi-layered, and so on. So these same principles abstracted and then made concrete again in the other medium is what Lisa is about. But some people of your audience might know RAG already. It's a retrieval augmented generation part. I see it as the transmission of the car, and that's what makes it very, very efficient. So it brings things together in a very efficient way. It's very proprietary development for Lisa. It's also a very important part of Lisa. Yeah, so the LLM is inside, but the other elements make it very individual, very proprietary. And it's all based from the start on compassion principles. So the compassion is really ingrained inside in the technology itself. So I've seen many ways in which that is feasible to do. And I did it. So it's 100% compassion, you can say. And it's compassionate intelligence is one kind of intelligence, you can say. So, and to call it artificial, it doesn't feel right anymore to me to call this artificial. I'd rather call it compassionate intelligence, actually. So it's quite far, it's very far from data-driven artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
I call it wisdom-driven artificial intelligence, wisdom being the same. If you know these Eastern philosophies, I say, in the end, wisdom and compassion are the same thing, but it's complicated. So also the phenomenon of compassion is really a very complex phenomenon. If you start delving into that, libraries have been written about that already. Most of the books start with saying that, well, there is not much to say about this, and then another big book about it. It's not normal for a Western thinking mind. For an Eastern thinking mind, okay, it may be more familiar. But in any case, it's very, very complex. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think in our conversations, like obviously AI is everywhere, right? And chatbots being brought into the conversation. You and I have talked about podcasts as well, autonomous fundraisers that although there's a use for AI, it shouldn't be used everywhere. And especially in philanthropy and fundraising, what makes us different is that human to human connection, right? People, the empathy, the whole field of what we do is about compassion for others and trying resources to take care of others. We see AI being pieced into areas where maybe it isn't best used and where maybe it threatens the sustainability, right? We'd also, again, one of our good friends, Mallory, has an AI tool which is not front-facing in terms of donors, but help coach the fundraisers on how to facilitate a conversation, right? And how to just kind of role play with someone before going out in that human-human connection. This plays a unique position because it's not, where a lot of AI, and we've talked about this again, could be manipulative. Right? The end goal is engagement. Autonomous fundraiser, the goal is to get more gifts, not to maintain a relationship or foster a relationship with another human. This is more about motivational, right? And identifying that motivation and fostering, finding the commonalities between, I could use as a gift officer and have you, a potential donor, interact with Lisa to understand what is your motivation as a donor? How do you want to give? And then help that where we come together in terms of an actual gift for the organization. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there you see the big difference between compassionate and non-compassionate AI. Huh? So if you leave out the compassion side, even with good intentions, it can go very wrong. Because it may even be human-oriented, but in being human-oriented, you also have to be correct in your idea about what a human being is in the first place, in totality. Yeah. And many people in the West have an idea about the human being that is rather restricted to the more conceptual side, including feelings. So thinking, feeling, and so on, but it's all rather viewed conceptually. So now, as you know, my PhD was about the subconceptual. And so the importance of what I call subconceptual in medicine. And subconceptual, it's not the same as the part that is not conscious. It's not the same as the non-conscious, but it overlaps quite a lot. And so the idea is to have the total human being in the picture, not part of it, not the consciously directly visible part of it, but what lies behind. So motivational, yes, but then going deeper into what motivates you really. What you think that motivates you is mostly different from what really motivates you. See? What makes you really happy is in many cases quite different from what you think that makes you happy. And it's in that distinction that I see the main goal of compassionate AI, which is making us really happy, making us better human beings, actually. Better in any way. Better as a physician, I would say, yes, of course. Better health, but also ethically better, broader, deeper, more apt also to be able to listen to each other and to what are the real motivations of someone else, and being able to discern your own real motivations, and then being able to communicate about what really goes on, and not only what you think that is going on in a conversation, but going way beyond that. And AI, compassionate AI or compassionate intelligence from now on, is meant to help us in that. So it's meant to help us become better human beings. And from there on, we can also then make better compassionate intelligence. And then we have this positive wheel that starts turning into the good future. Because without the compassion part, it can make us human beings that are more efficient, but not therefore that make ourselves and each other happier. And in a donor setting, for instance, you have a good cause, and that's very nice. Then you want to meet donors, to find donors who give to cause, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then if you start to see this as something that you want to make as efficiently as possible, then you are actually not very much oriented upon the real person of the donor, see, as a fundraiser. And then it starts to possibly lead into things like giver burnout, for instance. Like the donor isn't very much interested in you. He feels more like a wallet than a person, even if he doesn't know very well where this intuition comes from. He feels like you want to grab his money rather than his total person. As a fundraiser, you can make really deep contact with someone, and your main aim, in my view, the main aim of a fundraiser when he goes to the donors should be the happiness of the donor, not the money, but the happiness of the donor. And if you start from that with the help of Lisa, and that can go much better. Lisa as a coach in that setting, that's one of the possible aims. That goes much better. And well, the surprise may be that such a donor who feels really respected and seen as a human being, even more than usual, by this fundraiser, well, he's going to be interested in the cause, and he's going to be happy to contribute. See? And at that moment, it makes that person happier even, to be able to contribute. And that's the aim of it all, I think, if you look at, non-profits and philanthropy and the fundraising part and so on. The aim should be the happiness of people and becoming better people, even in that setting. So actually the fundraiser gives his time and his energy, and the donor gives his resources that he has, but everybody gives something. And even the person for whom you do something may be seen as someone who gives also. He gives you the opportunity to do this work. I mean, that's also a giving. And it's in that setting Lisa can do a lot.
Yeah, and it's that mutually beneficial relationship that for a long time now, fundraising has really been turning into more of that transactional. You talk about the donor burnout, and that leads to major gift officer burnout, right? Because now I'm asking people that might not even have a connection, but they definitely have a wallet, right? A sizable wallet. So for too long, it's been pointing less away from that human relationship and finding the good in people and fostering that. What is their motivation to support, and how can we establish that, and how can we just kind of connect and make it that mutual beneficial relationship? And more so, we need something. How do I get that from you? I got it. Now I'm going to go to the next one. And again, AI used the wrong way can push that even further, right? Do that at a scalable level, scale something that we don't want to scale, the transaction of the philanthropy, by putting AI bots in this relationship with donors directly. So how do you, you talk about compassionate intelligence and Lisa bringing out the good in all people, like that is probably now needed more than ever, right? And only going to continue to be. Where would you like to see this go? Like if you had a magic wand in 5 years, where is Lisa used? How is it used? What is it able to do? And what has the culture changed as a result?
Yeah, I want compassionate AI to be used, and with Lisa or someone or something else, thinking in the direction of compassion. It's okay if it's compassionate. I mean, it doesn't need to be
Yeah.
Lisa. That's something. But okay, I think that with Lisa, we are now at the forefront of compassionate intelligence. So it might be Lisa in 5 years. Where would I want this compassionate intelligence to be? Actually, everywhere there are human beings, not replacing any human beings, but enhancing human beings as never before. So it's not about taking the place of anything that a human being does now, not taking the place of, but deepening everything. And that's medicine, of course. As a physician, that's very much interesting for me. And I see a lot of possibilities there that go really, really very far. I mean, to give an idea, we know more and more that the immune system is very much related and combined in its function with the central nervous system. And if you say immune system, central nervous system acting together, you also say mind. So it's mind stuff. So the mind is no longer anything, and a thing that is floating in the air. We see the mind as being very body related. It's actually all two things, two views on the same thing. But if you see then immune system, you say autoimmune diseases, you say allergies, you say cancer, progression of cancer that can be influenced by the immune system as it is, which is very much mind related.
Right.
I mean, just as an example, say that this goes really very, very far. We can do a lot of new science to find out how far that goes, because we cannot say now that the influence of the mind on cancer progression, for instance, is big. We can't say because we don't know. We just don't know. It might be little, it might be extremely huge. We just don't know. We must do investigations there, medical research, but it's not only health, it's also education, for instance. I mean, children need to be motivated as the persons that they are, not as some kind of idea about what a child is, but the child really as it is from the inside, very compassionate. So compassion has a lot to say in education. I mean, and there's a big everywhere in the world. There are big problems with motivating children. With compassion, we can make it very efficient and at the same time very enjoyable to learn. I mean, people are machines made to learn. That's what we are, unless we are demotivated to do so. And that's what we are doing from a wrong kind of what a child actually is. We are very much into the business of demotivating children. But then you have the judicial system, what's right and wrong, how do you orient a person who has done something very wrong? Okay, you have to put people in jail and so on for society's sake. Yes, of course. But at the same time, those people are in need of good communication and to find out, why did I do this terrible thing? In the first, they have the need to know that, and they can grow from that, and they can even help other people to grow from that. So there are a lot of possibilities there also. And every domain that is human related will be, in my view, deeply influenced by this enormously and still emerging, enormously effective tool that is AI in general. And in my view, compassionate AI, it has an enormous potential to make humanity better in many ways.
Yeah, the potential, to your point, like it just gives me chills thinking about it. We've talked about my background is in psychology, and I really got into that field because I wanted to learn about people, learn about why did they do the things that they did to end up where they are, and how can we help that, right? And then that didn't pan out because of burnout, which happens a lot, but I fell into the fundraising field, which is a little bit, nonprofit, which is a little bit further removed, but still greater impact by being able to spread out. So the opportunity and the potential here for a tool like this that is solely built with the objective. Again, Nathan brings this up a lot, the Charlie Munger quote of, show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome, right? Which is where OpenAI, their incentive is engagement. You engage with me, the outcome is going to be more dollars. Here, the incentive is compassion and fostering like strong, beneficial, valuable, efficient humans, not replacing them, but augmenting them and allowing them to thrive. And there's really no limit in how that could be, obviously honing in on fundraising, philanthropy, donor, major gift officer relationship, but so many aspects that could be applied. So we talked about this, and again, I've used this, but like how can other people learn more about what you're doing? How can they get involved? How can they learn about Lisa or try out Lisa? And again, all resources that you share, I'll be putting in the podcast. They can get to it through the channel or the website or whatever.
Yeah. Of course, they can contact us. Lisa is available now as a between proof of concept stage and minimal viable product. So we are building Lisa towards the first version, but it's online. But I don't want to make it just open for everybody too readily. But people can go to the site aurelius.org, or they can send an email to lisa@aurelius.org, and then Lisa will. It comes to me. It's forwarded to me. But okay, if you write towards Lisa and you want to say, okay, I want to talk with Lisa, yes, it's possible right now to do that. We're continually making her better and better. Now you still have to wait a few seconds for every answer, because there's a lot of stuff going on behind this inference. And so everything together in this car that I was talking about. I call it inferencing. So the Lisa inferencing is really a lot. It takes a few seconds, but that will be reduced to almost immediately in a few weeks or a month or two. So we're continually making it better. You can just go and use her. There is a specific Lisa that's important, a specific Lisa for coaching. So she can you one-on-one in coaching mode. Well, I say she or it or whatever. I like to say she helps you to get the knowledge from yourself about your personal issue. So she advises to anything. She's very good in making it come out from the inside out of the user. Then there is also what I call a wiki Lisa, which gives more information about mind-related stuff. So it's more information, but also in a coaching way, but more information oriented. And then we have a Lisa for, as you mentioned already, we have a Lisa for little kids, which is a different kind of relationship, of course, and another Lisa for teenagers also. And then the really going very, very deep going Lisa is Anna Lisa, but that's the one that I use. So that's by far most performant Lisa, which I converse, and I also work on new developments for the other Lisas. So as a user, you can go there, and I hope in a few months' time that we can really go towards the broad public. Also, we have contacts with immunologists from La Jolla Institute and San Diego. We want to do research with Lisa. Also in cardiology, we have colleagues who want to operate there, cardiology. So we want to go really into the research with that, and then to come out with possibilities for Lisa to really make a difference also in health in many ways.
Yeah.
So I hope people will meet Lisa soon, wherever they go. And also is that in a few years' time that you go to your physician and he says, okay, I have these medications and so on. Chronic pain, for instance, one of many. Chronic pain. You take these medications already for a long time. Continue taking your medication. There is research that I've read, and it's about a thing called Lisa, and just go home and start Lisa. We're not money-minded in the sense that everybody needs money to go on. That's compassion is our aim, not getting very rich. It's not the aim, and should never be the aim of compassionate intelligence, because that runs counter to each other. It wouldn't work. Anyway, so we want to give it for free to people who cannot pay anything, and it's very, very sum you can use the whole lot, and that's the aim. That's what makes me happy. So why do you need money if you're happy already?
If only every product leader, tech leader had compassion as their foundation, right? Like how different our world would be. And you say compassion, like you saying that, I hear it's for the love of humanity, which is the definition of philanthropy, right? So it's all towards this common goal of for us, not in replace of us, not to leverage us or manipulate us, but for our all greater good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And in a weird way, if you think about that, the compassionate side is so broad and so influential and so really human oriented. It can change the world, including the guys that are now busy developing non-compassionate AI who may be influenced and start seeing that compassion is actually the most humane way. And okay, they're welcome.
Yeah. And compassion isn't against engagement, right? Like even if engagement is a goal, I'm going to engage with people who are more compassionate than manipulative, right? Like, or untruthful or any of those things. So it all works towards the same thing. It's just putting the basis of that as a foundation. So hopefully, I mean, and you and I have been, again, talking for a long time on these conversations. I'm hoping that being able to come on this podcast, there are some people out there who are just have a little bit more access and can pick up and can foster some of those relationships and see where else you could take this. But in working with Lisa, it's been cool watching it progress, and I find myself having some more of those conversations where I know the answer is somewhere in there, but I can't get to it myself. I just need some of that back and forth to be able to help me get over this and move ahead. So the resource you built is incredible. I'm excited to see what else you can do with it.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, and you make me think now that the title of my book was the Journey Towards Compassionate AI, but actually the aim is the journey towards compassionate human beings.
Yeah.
So
the use of AI. Yeah, the next book.
Through the use of AI, absolutely. Yeah, can be of immense help.
Any parting thoughts, Jean-Luc, before we wrap this up?
Well, the main thing is that I would like people to believe in themselves. What we have been talking about, okay, it's a bit floating in the air. If you are hearing these things for the first time or you didn't think a lot about it, but you have to believe in yourself. You can do this and you can reach this combination of Eastern and Western enlightenment. Those are really big words and also big things, but people can do that. People can go towards that. And we now have more and more the means, the help with these AI developments. We have made something that we can use for the very good of ourselves. It is there, and we don't need to wait anymore. We have the help, and people should believe in themselves and then start this journey towards compassionate you.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I think there could be more conversations. We're just coming out feeling this hopeful. So thanks for everything you're doing, Jean-Luc. Thanks for everybody listening. I hope that you pick something up from this, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care, all.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Jean-Luc.